The chamber of the Galactic Council was not built for comfort. It was a place where power dripped from every word, where species that had survived 1,000 starfaring eras fought with rhetoric sharper than plasma blades. Hundreds of representatives filled the amphitheater-like hall, their voices a rising tide of alien languages, buzzing, clicking, resonating. At the center, the issue of the day flared like a star threatening to collapse: the proposal to launch an invasion of Earth. The suggestion had come from the Carthage Dominion, a reptilian empire swollen with pride and conquest. Their general spoke with the flat certainty of a species that had never known defeat. He called Earth a low-tech backwater. Its population, primitive primates clinging to a fragile rock. He described its resources, water, metals, arable land, as justification for immediate occupation. He spoke as if humanity was no more threatening than a flock of docile grazers waiting for the slaughter. For a moment, the chamber filled with the usual hum of negotiation and opportunism. Some delegates shifted uneasily but said nothing. Others, especially those from species aligned with the Dominion, nodded along. A few simply ignored the discussion, as though Earth were of no consequence to their interests. But then the voice that cut through the noise was neither indifferent nor supportive. It was a voice charged with disbelief, sharpened with urgency. "Invade Earth? Have you lost your mind?" The words echoed with such force that the other voices faltered. The speaker, Delegate Threx of the Old Confederacy, leaned forward, mandibles clattering in agitation. His compound eyes reflected the council's lights, but more than that, they carried something most had never seen in a Yon: fear. He did not wait for permission to continue. "I have stood here through centuries of this council's debates, through wars and alliances, through the rise and fall of empires. But never, never, have I heard a suggestion as suicidal as this." A ripple of laughter escaped from the Dominion benches, cruel and mocking. The general hissed, "They are soft, Threx. Flesh and bone barely held together. They have no natural weapons, no true defenses, no fleets worth naming. Why should we not take what is ours by strength?" The delegate's mandibles clicked shut with a sharp crack. He leaned even further, voice low but heavy. "Because you do not understand what you are speaking of. You think in terms of strength as claws and fangs, armor and firepower. But that is not what Earth is. That is not what humans are." The chamber quieted, curiosity stirring. Even those who had dismissed the debate earlier now tilted their heads, listening. Few had encountered humans directly. Most had heard whispers, rumors traded in shadowed ports, stories from scouts who never returned, scattered reports from fringe observers. Humans were distant, still clustered on their blue planet, a minor species barely touching the stars. To most, they were irrelevant. But Threx's tone carried a gravity that gnawed at their certainty. "You see their bodies, frail compared to yours," he continued. "You see their weapons, crude beside your fleets. You see their homeworld and imagined conquest. But you do not see their history, their essence. And if you cannot see it, then you are blind." The Dominion general hissed again, but the murmurs in the chamber now bent toward Threx. He pressed on. "Have you never wondered why their world, isolated as it is, still remains unconquered? Why no empire has yet claimed it, despite its resources, despite its vulnerability? It is because those who tried never returned. Because Earth is not simply a planet, it is a crucible. And its children are not prey. They are predators who learn to survive by enduring everything their world hurled at them." The general scoffed, but the sound was hollow. Even he could not entirely dismiss the steel in Threx's voice. The delegate's compound eyes swept across the council. "Do you believe you will march upon that world, and its people will bow? That they will surrender their skies, their seas, their soil? You think their fragility makes them weak. It does not. It makes them dangerous. Because they have survived despite their fragility. And that is the most terrifying kind of strength." Silence settled. The chamber, vast as it was, seemed to shrink around the weight of his words. The delegates shifted uneasily, processing the idea that perhaps the primitive primates were not as harmless as they seemed. Some still smirked in disbelief, but others, the cautious, The older, the ones who had seen empires burn, stared at Threx as though he were revealing a secret they had long feared. The Dominion general began to speak again, but his voice lacked the same unshakable confidence as before. And in that moment Threx knew he had struck the nerve he intended. The warning had been given. The seed of doubt had been planted. Humans are not imposing to the eye. Their bodies appear fragile, no scales to shield them, no natural armor to deflect harm, no venomous glands or crushing jaws. Their skin tears easily, their bones can snap under forces that many other species endure without notice. Compared to predators that stalk their world, they look like easy prey. But this fragility is a deception, one of the greatest in the galaxy, for their weakness is paired with an endurance that defies logic. Consider how they hunt. Most predators strike with speed or stealth. They rely on bursts of violence to overcome their quarry. Humans, by contrast, mastered persistence. They can pursue an animal for hours, even days, running it to exhaustion while never allowing themselves to break. Their lungs, their sweat, their ability to regulate body temperature, these are not weaknesses but instruments of relentless pursuit. Species with natural armor may scoff, yet no armor helps when exhaustion collapses your body under its own weight. Their resilience does not end with the body. Psychologically, they are more formidable still. Where many intelligent species retreat from trauma, humans absorb it, reshape it, and return with new resolve. Their histories are filled with catastrophe, plagues that decimated populations, natural disasters that buried civilizations, wars that scarred continents. Any one of these should have ended them, yet each time they rose again, rebuilding stronger, carrying lessons into the next age. This cycle of collapse and renewal is not shameful to them, it is a foundation of their identity. What is peculiar is their ability to embrace suffering and even extract meaning from it. They write songs about loss, build monuments to tragedy, tell stories of their greatest failures not as warnings to avoid hardship but as blueprints for enduring it. While other cultures erase memories of disaster, humans canonize them, teach them to children, and turn scars into symbols of pride. This cultural memory ensures that their mistakes are never truly lost. Instead, they become seeds for invention. Their adaptability extends further than any species I have known. Most creatures evolve to fit their environment. Humans alter their environment to fit themselves. With fire they banish the night. With stone and metal they shape the world's bones into tools and weapons. With language they wove shared memory across generations, faster than biology could ever grant. When storms came, they built shelters. When predators threatened, they created weapons. When disease struck, they searched for cures until they conquered it. No other species so willingly defies the natural order. It is this defiance that makes them impossible to subjugate. Where one would expect them to crumble, they improvise. Strip away their technology, and they will rebuild it. Scatter them, and they will reunite. Constrain them, and they will find cracks in the chains. They do not bend simply because resistance seems futile. They fight because resistance itself defines them. To challenge them is to present them with the very thing they need to grow stronger. Even their social instincts are paradoxical. They quarrel endlessly among themselves, nations warring, tribes dividing, ideologies clashing. By any measure, such disunity should weaken them. Yet when true danger looms from outside, they gather together with a swiftness that shocks their adversaries. Rivals who once bled each other dry will stand side by side against a greater threat. The same energy that drives their conflicts is redirected outward, becoming a force of unity forged in necessity. Other civilizations that experienced internal war often destroyed themselves beyond recovery. Humans, by contrast, treat conflict as a crucible. From it emerges innovation. Engines designed for battle become machines of exploration, medicines born of wartime necessity cure diseases in peace, and strategies learned on battlefields become frameworks for cooperation. They are not merely survivors, they are alchemists of adversity, turning every misfortune into fuel for their advancement. To call them fragile is to misunderstand the nature of resilience. Their vulnerability gives them urgency, their mortality gives them ambition. Every human knows life is short, and because of this, they rush to fill it with meaning, invention, and action. This urgency drives them farther, faster, deeper than species with centuries at their disposal. It makes them reckless, yes, but also unstoppable. They will risk everything not only for themselves but for ideas, for futures they may never see. This is why the assumption of their weakness is dangerous. You look at their bodies and see prey. I look at their history and see predators of a different kind, predators of circumstance, of challenge, of destiny itself. You cannot exhaust them, you cannot terrify them, and you cannot wait them out. They are built to endure, and endurance is the one weapon no conqueror can strip away. Humans thrive where others falter because chaos, to them, is not poison but fuel. Most civilizations rise only when stability prevails, when order grants the predictability necessary for growth. Humans are the opposite. Their greatest leaps are born not in peace but in moments of upheaval, forged in the crucible of uncertainty. What others fear, they turn into opportunity. History reveals a pattern. Whenever calamity threatened to end them, they adapted faster than their rivals could comprehend. Wars that should have reduced them to rubble instead accelerated their ingenuity. Conflict drove them to refine weapons, expand communication, and rethink strategy. Rivalries that seemed destined to splinter their species became contests that sharpened them, teaching lessons at a pace no gradual evolution could match. Where another race would fracture beyond repair, humans transform fragmentation into renewal. They are creatures of improvisation. Present them with a problem, and they will not seek the safest path but the boldest. Give them scarcity, and they invent substitutes. Push them into desperation, and they devise entirely new systems of survival. Unlike those who require centuries of careful adaptation, they pivot in months, even weeks, altering social structures, technologies, or philosophies as if their minds were wired for constant upheaval. They are not limited by tradition, they cannibalize it when necessary, discarding old forms the moment they no longer serve survival. Their wars, brutal as they are, reveal a paradoxical gift. When locked in conflict with themselves, they create divisions so deep it seems no reconciliation is possible. Yet the instant a true external threat appears, those divisions collapse into a unity so absolute it terrifies any who witness it. Rivals that have spent generations fighting one another will align overnight when confronted by an outsider. It is not loyalty to a leader or uniformity of belief that binds them, but a primal recognition that survival demands cooperation. In such moments, they act with a cohesion no empire can replicate through fear or decree. This capacity for rapid unity is amplified by their ability to communicate at astonishing speeds. Even in their early eras, their networks of language, writing, and technology allowed ideas to travel far faster than most species achieve. Under pressure, those networks become lifelines, weaving fractured groups into coordinated forces. A single discovery in one corner of their world can ripple outward within days, shifting entire strategies across continents. Their adaptability is not just physical or cultural, it is collective, magnified by the scale of their interconnection. To their enemies, this is disorienting. An invasion may target one faction, believing the others will remain divided, only to find those same rivals suddenly supplying troops, resources, or intelligence in defense of the species as a whole. Opponents expect predictable resistance, but humans deliver something worse: unpredictability. They do not follow the patterns of a singular culture or a stable hierarchy. They turn disorder into strategy. Their chaos is not a weakness, it is a weapon honed sharper than any blade. This is why conquest against them fails. You cannot prepare for them as you would prepare for another empire. Every strike against them reshapes them, forcing evolution in real time. Press them into submission, and they rise united. Crush their cities, and the survivors adapt their methods. Attempt to terrorize them, and they will absorb the fear, twist it, and return it as rage. Invaders believe they are breaking humans, but in truth, they are tempering them. Even more dangerous is their audacity. Humans do not merely respond to threats, they escalate. In their history, when cornered, they have not hesitated to gamble everything, even at the risk of annihilation. They will unleash weapons on themselves rather than bow. They will sacrifice comfort, abandon safety, and embrace ruin if it grants a chance to resist. To species that value self-preservation above all, such behavior is madness. To humans, it is instinct. And so, when you look at them, you must not measure their strength by fleets or weapons alone. Their true arsenal is their ability to unite in the storm, to transform chaos into cohesion, to find purpose in destruction. They are the only species I know that can build meaning from ashes. Invade them, and you will not face individuals scattered across a fragile world. You will face a singular will forged from desperation, as inexorable as gravity itself. When humans first brushed against the edges of the wider galaxy, observers expected awe, hesitation, perhaps even submission. What they witnessed instead unsettled them. Reports filtered back of humans staring down technologies millennia beyond their own as though confronting a puzzle rather than a miracle. Fear was absent where it should have been overwhelming. In its place was curiosity so intense it bordered on aggression. They demanded to know how devices worked, how ships flew, how languages fit together. Within weeks, they imitated structures that had taken others centuries to master. That speed of comprehension unsettled even the most advanced species, for it revealed a hunger not for survival alone but for understanding, and understanding is the first step to mastery. There are stories carried in hushed tones through trade routes of how quickly humans turned discovery into possession. One tells of a salvaged alien weapon, recovered not by engineers but by soldiers in the field. In days it was dismantled, examined, and altered until it became something uniquely human, less elegant, perhaps, but more efficient, more brutal, and above all, more effective. What others regarded as sacred tools of war, humans treated as raw material, as clay to be reshaped according to their own logic. Their enemies found themselves facing their own technology, repurposed with improvements born not of tradition but of reckless ingenuity. Their reactions to danger are equally unsettling. A scout ship once reported that a group of humans, stranded and hopelessly outnumbered, laughed as their enemy closed in. Laughed, not in mockery, but in defiance, as though humor itself was a weapon against despair. To those who witnessed it, this behavior bordered on the incomprehensible. How can a species so fragile find joy when death is certain? And yet this strange defiance is precisely what makes them terrifying. Fear is expected, predictable. Laughter at the edge of annihilation is not. Even more disturbing are accounts of their empathy. Aliens often interpret kindness as weakness, but with humans it becomes an unpredictable force. They will endanger themselves to rescue strangers, waste precious resources to aid the wounded of other species, and extend trust where caution would be rational. But this mercy is double-edged. Once they extend it, and it is betrayed, their retaliation is absolute. A single act of treachery can unify them into a relentless storm. Compassion, then, is not softness, it is the prelude to their most implacable fury. There was once an incident on the fringes of settled space, a seemingly minor clash where a rival faction underestimated the humans' response. They struck at an isolated outpost, assuming no great reprisal would follow. What they provoked instead was disproportionate retribution, fleets mobilized, alliances formed overnight, and strategies devised with terrifying speed. The humans did not merely repel the attack, they dismantled the aggressor's power structure, ensuring such a mistake could never be repeated. What began as a skirmish ended as a warning to all who were watching. Do not provoke them unless you are prepared to endure consequences beyond reason. Scientists who studied them hoped to map their limits, to chart the edges of their adaptability. Instead, they found no ceiling. Each attempt to measure the boundaries of their resilience failed, for every obstacle created only sharpened their will. They mastered alien dialects in record time, absorbing not just the words but the cultural nuance behind them. They seized technology and wove it into their own traditions, merging the familiar with the foreign until it became inseparable. Nothing remained untouched, everything they encountered was consumed, redefined, and returned stronger. It is not raw strength that unsettles those who know them, it is relentlessness. Other species stop when victory is secured. Humans continue. They overlearn, overprepare, and overreach, as though every triumph must be surpassed. Their victories are never singular, they are stepping stones to larger ambitions. Even their compassion feeds into this drive, for when they fight, It is rarely just for themselves but for an idea, a future, or a promise that extends beyond their own lives. To underestimate them is not only foolish but fatal. They are not remarkable because they are the strongest, the swiftest, or the most advanced. They are remarkable because they are never finished, never satisfied, never still. For every obstacle placed in their path, they will find not only a way through but a way to rise higher than before. And it is this momentum, this ceaseless progression, that makes them the most dangerous force in the galaxy. You imagine that seizing Earth would be no different from other conquests, that overwhelming fleets and firepower could subdue its people quickly. But the truth is harsher than any projection. An invasion of that planet would not end in victory but in a catastrophe for the aggressor. The humans would not crumble under occupation, they would rise into a form of resistance unlike any you have encountered. They would not surrender their skies or their seas, nor would they yield their soil, even when drenched in their own blood. Every assault you deliver would awaken in them a deeper determination, every loss would harden their resolve, and every cruelty would be repaid with ingenuity sharpened by vengeance. Picture the outcome of your plan. Your armies descend, striking at their cities. You expect terror, chaos, collapse. Instead, the shock becomes unifying fire. Their rivalries dissolve, their conflicts vanish, and suddenly you are not facing scattered nations but one species, united with ferocity. Their scientists will strip your wreckage for secrets, their engineers will adapt your weapons into their own, their strategists will turn your victories into lessons against you. The very act of invasion would provide them the tools they need to surpass you. You would be forging your conqueror with your own hands. You underestimate the strength of desperation. Humans have built entire civilizations while starving, while besieged, while surrounded by enemies on every side. If you drive them to the brink, they will not surrender, they will invent new ways to fight. If you take their homes, they will fight from caves, from forests, from ruins. If you destroy their leaders, they will raise new ones from among the survivors. If you poison their soil, they will grow food in the cracks of concrete. There is no condition of deprivation they have not endured before. Your greatest weapons would not terrify them, they would remind them of what they have already survived. Consider the psychology of such a foe. They do not measure victory only by survival. They fight for ideas, for futures they may never live to see, for children yet unborn. If forced, they will sacrifice everything without hesitation, and in doing so, they gain an advantage no empire can match. An enemy who has already accepted death cannot be coerced. You may kill millions, but the rest will continue to rise. You may break their bodies, but you cannot extinguish their will, and it is that will which will grind your armies into dust. Even worse for you, they do not remain contained. Once provoked, they will not limit themselves to defending their world. They will follow you. They will learn the routes of your supply lines, infiltrate your communications, and hunt you across the stars. Their history proves this. Every time they discover new territory, they do not stop at its edges, they push further. If you bring them into the galactic struggle as an enemy, you will not contain them to Earth. You will awaken an expansionist drive fueled not by ambition but by retribution. And there is no force more dangerous than humans fighting not for conquest, but for survival with vengeance in their hearts. This council must understand, Earth is not just another target. It is the birthplace of a species that thrives on adversity, a species that transforms disaster into strength, a species that grows sharper every time it is struck. If you choose to invade, you will not merely fight them, you will teach them. And once they have learned your tactics, your technologies, and your weaknesses, they will never forget. They will adapt, they will endure, and eventually, they will surpass you. So weigh your decision carefully. Do not confuse fragility with weakness. Do not mistake their mortality for submission. Do not believe for a moment that they can be broken by force. Humanity is not prey. Humanity is the storm that rises when prey refuses to die. Invade them, and you will learn too late why every whisper of their name carries both awe and dread.